Okay, it's 6 o'clock, April 15th, 2013. And it's time to start this regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of San Felipe Del Rio CISD. Mr. Overfeld, we have a quorum, correct?
Yes, sir, we do.
Let the record show that a quorum of the board members is present, that this meeting's been duly called, and that notice of this meeting's been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. This time, if you'd stand for opening ceremonies. First, a moment of silence to reflect your own way. Now the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Brings us to agenda item 4, public comments. Ms. Falcone, were there any? No public comments. Agenda item 5, information items, beginning with A, Del Rio High School, Future Business Leaders of America students advancing to nationals. Presenter, Mr. Roger Gonzalez, CTE Director.
Good evening, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Ackerman, members of the board. Usually April 15th is usually not a day to celebrate, but we're celebrating tonight. CTE, actually, Career and Technical Education, is proud to announce that the Future Business Leaders of America, FBLA, competed at the Texas FBLA Leadership Conference in Dallas on March 7th through the 9th, winning first place in management decision-making event that qualifies these students to advance and represent the state of Texas at the FBLA National Competition to be held from June 24th through July 2nd in Anaheim, California. Help me welcome our Texas representatives for Future Business Leaders of America, Lisa Diaz. Annie Garcia. And Paola Gonzalez. Also along with them is the FBLA advisor, Larissa Garanzuay. And the dual credit instructor, Joel Despinosa. These three girls that are advancing competed in one of the toughest events because the contest is actually two parts. An objective part, 100 tough questions relating to business scenarios and questions, and timed. Only the top teams advance to the final round. These girls advanced to the final round based on the results of the objective test. The next obstacle was the performance components. Students are given 20 minutes before the performance to analyze a case. An interactive case study concerning a problem encountered by managers in one of the following areas: human resource management, financial management, marketing management, and information system management. These girls had to assume the role of a manager and present a solution to the case. Teams only had 7 minutes to interact with judges and present a solution to the problem. Judges are college professors and industry leaders. Our trio of girls placed first in this event, management decision making, beating out 10 other teams from around the state of Texas who made the final round. On a side note, these three girls have taken every dual credit management course there is available at the high school, most of them graduating with 30 plus hours of dual credit. Three girls are also in the top 10% of their class, and I'm proud to say I was their former teacher. So congratulations to my 3 winners that are advancing to the State Leadership Conference in Anaheim. And again, these are the 3 that are representing the state of Texas at Anaheim, California. I would also like to thank the administration and the board and the parents for the support of these great individuals, and to our sponsors for their numerous hours spent with the girls in working so they can actually perform at this level. Thank you so much.
Brings us to agenda item 5B, Del Rio High School first robotic competition, Alamo Region winners. Presenter again, Mr. Gonzalez, CTE Director.
Again, good evening, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Ackerman, members of the board. The celebration continues. Del Rio High School first robotic competition, Alamo Region winners. Team for 4063, Tricks Are for Kids, competed at the Alamo Region FRC in San Antonio, Texas on March 28th through the 30th. This event is the largest regional event held in the United States, with 61 teams competing and more than 3,000 science, technology, engineering, and mathematics STEM students participating. By winning this regional event, FRC Team 4063 qualifies to compete at the first Robotics World Championship, April 24th through the 27th in St. Louis, Missouri. You notice from the slide, FIRST stands for Inspirational and Recognition of Science and Technology. This was actually started in 1992 by the brainchild of Dean Kamen, best known as the inventor of the Segway and robotic wheelchair and other medical devices. His idea was to expose students to concrete engineering challenges while having professional engineers encourage and mentor them. This year's first robotic competition, FRC, event for high school students has about 54,000 high school age young people organized in 2,700 teams with the support of 16,000 mentors and adult supervisors and 3,000 corporate sponsors. While FRC is a major event, the program has expanded over the years to also include FTC, First Tech Challenge, programs for grades 7 through 12, and FLL, First Legal League for ages 4 through 8, and the Junior FLL for grades K to 3. This actually makes up Team 4063. There are 30 members, 7 females, 23 males, the non-traditional students. Again, we have 4 seniors, 12 juniors, 10 sophomores, 4 freshmen, and again, the robot is a cyber bunny. So we have duplicated here tonight. I want to introduce the coaches of the World Competing Robotics Team, Mr. Brad Bilodeau and Mr. Bill Davis. These are some quotes from other FTC teams. Again, we have highlighted some of the things from other teams that actually, this is the second year that the robotics team actually is in existence. So watch out, San Antonio's folks will be formidable next year for Madison. So again, you'll see some of the other comments on there for selecting us, helping us get to the finals for the first time in the team's history. 4063, complete package. Vacuum wheels with a top-notch driver. Tricks Are for Kids, 4063. I told you at the event, and I'll say it again, you're going to be the first real powerful team from south of Texas if you keep on track that you're on. So these are some comments from some of the other advisors from the area. Also, this team has actually received one of the famous awards, actually recognizing gracious professionalism. This actually is a respect towards competitors and integrity of one's actions. So they are the winners of the Gracious Professionalism Award, Hard Hat Safety Award. In 2013, regionals runner-up at the Hub, and 2013 #1 Pitt. 2013 Gracious Professionalism Award again for the second year in a row. 2013 Alamo Regional winner, and again it tells you about gracious professionalism, celebrating outstanding sportsmanship. and continuous grace and professionalism in the heat of competition, both off and on the field. So, we are going to now call the members of this team. We're going to start off with Gilbert Arispe. Justin Bass could not make it tonight, but he's also a member of the team. Mauricio Figueroa. Mauricio, come on in. Carlos Rodriguez. Abner Arteaga. Christian Barrio Salas. Daniel Coronado. Curtis Davis, Riel de Anda, Ruben de los Santos, Emilia Garanzuay, Guillermo Hernandez, Courtney Lewis, Fernando Mesa, Robert Moorman, Frida Rivera, Mario Castillo, Maria Carmen del Toro, Josh Fabian, George Forster, Jory Hansel, Josue Longoria, Steve Montelongo, Adrian Ortiz, Jose Pardon, Julissa Sosa, Joe Martinez, Priscilla Paez, Israel Sosa, Wolfgang von Asp. Picture of them actually receiving their Gracious Professionalism Award for the second year in a row, and it was fantastic. Again, by winning this event, they are advancing to, again, St. Louis, Wednesday the 24th through Saturday the 27th. There are 400 teams competing from the U.S., Canada, Israel, Brazil, Mexico, Netherlands, Dominican Republic, Turkey, and Australia. So this is why it's considered the World Championship. Again, Team 4063 students are college-bound, destined to challenge the world. We are the next generation of scientists and engineers that will literally build the future and find cures for debilitating illnesses. Team 4063 would like to thank the school district board and the administration for their assistance in unlocking our potential and support for continued success. Again, I would also like to acknowledge our sponsors, which are Mr. Billadu, Mr. Davis, which have spent numerous hundreds of hours working, and our mentors. We are building mentorships with Laughlin Air Force Base engineers. We're building also partnerships with the maquila industry in Acuña and local citizens that are willing to help and support the robotics program. And again, to the parents that have actually brought the students to practice every day, late hours, weekends, brought food, etc., etc. So again, behind every successful student is a very supportive and proud parent and relative. So again, congratulations. Thank you very much. Oh, we have one more thing, okay? We have developed some partnerships, okay, like I mentioned, and one of the main partnership is actually the Bank and Trust. And the Bank and Trust actually has brought in a lot of personnel to actually work with them in team spirit and teamwork and team. So again, Gilbert is actually the president of the robotics, and he's going to lead us in this team effort.
Who's dedicated? We are! Who's motivated? We are! Who's number one? We are! And who are we? Number one dedicated, motivated team 4063!
We also have some mentors here. We also have some mentors here that, again, have supported the organization tremendously. Thank you, guys.
Now think they can take over the scooter store in New Braunfels.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What a fantastic way to start out tonight with future business leaders of America students advancing to nationals and the first robotic competition region winners. I mean, could we be more proud as a board and as a community of both of those groups? It's awesome.
Extremely.
Fantastic. Okay, we're now on agenda item 5C, facilities and operations update. First being Ruben Chavita Elementary construction update. Mr. Salinas and Mr. Graves presenting.
Good evening, Mr. Garabedian, Superintendent, and board members. We're getting close on the buildings. This first presentation is on Chavira. The contractor is complete with the inside of the building. There are a few minor things. We still need some room signage. That'll be coming in a few weeks. This is a lobby area. We made some decisions on the security at the lobby this past week, which involves a few changes in the glass doors that we had in the lobby. The main entry doors that you see in the background there, we have cleared that for security glass and redoing those doors on it. There are going to be cameras and intercom at those doors. You'll walk through those doors and then you'll be in a secondary secure lobby before you go into the office area. This is a reception area in the office. Air conditioning, ceiling tile, floors have now been waxed. Everything's ready to move in. Some of the furniture has arrived. This is in the conference room. Principal's office. Again, in the conference room. The gymnasium, still waiting on the basketball goals to come in. Their delivery date is for the 18th or 19th. We did have the contractor obtain some portable basketball goals so they can use those in the meantime. There are 2 of those, by the way, in there, so now they can play basketball. Everything is complete in there. There are some cabling that needs to be run to an overhead projector or conduit for cabling on it. There are a few minor items. We'll probably be conducting a final inspection once the wall pads and the basketball goals go in on it. The coaches' offices at the gymnasium. And we'll be showing final photographs on all of the other spaces on completion. Are there any questions on Chavira School?
Mr. Mesa?
I don't recall, was there an upgrade on the alarm system and then was it tied into the new gymnasium? I know that, because of the change of administrative areas.
The fire alarm system? They are going to be upgrading that. They found some things wrong with it. I think one of them, they need a dedicated outlet for that fire alarm system. Are you aware of anything else on it?
No,
I think that was,
the plans call for it all to be tied in, and so the new areas have the upgraded system to it. and it has been connected back to the main panel, and it has been tested.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Okay, we'll go into the Bank and Trust Ram Field. As y'all are aware, they have had a few games there finally. There are still a few things remaining to be done. There's some touch-up welding that needs to be done. The main entrances, the gates are being manufactured. There are 2 gates there at those arches. The cast stone that's on top of that gate entrance is being manufactured. It should be in possibly this week. This is looking at the concession area back down towards the toilet rooms. The window on the left is a ticket booth. The press box is up above. The bleachers, the permanent bleachers arrived today, and they are setting those up right now on it. They said it'd take about 8 to 10 days to get all of the bleachers up on it.
We hope to have the home side finished by tomorrow's game.
These are portable bleachers that have been brought in for the games that they've had the past week or two. The press box and the stair arrived last week. They got that installed. The family restroom, there are 2 large restrooms in the family restroom. The first game they had was at night, and the lights that you see at the bottom of those, the bottom of the roof there, they were too bright, so they had those lights cut off. The lights from the field evidently was sufficient for that. We're looking at possibly taking those lights and either turning them up to where they shine up on the roof without any glare, and you get the reflectance down. It's more a diffuse light, or angling the light back away from the players. Are there any questions on the Bank and Trust Ram Field?
Mr. Chavita has a question or discussion.
On the concession, the shade, and the press bunker, who's responsible for putting that net? You know, it's supposed to be covering because it's kind of dangerous out there.
Where in between the press box and the concession on it, we're going to need a net covering the roof there. Even though the backstop is, I think it's 18 or 20 feet tall on it, it's still a possibility that a ball can come down in there on it.
But
Yeah,
we're
'cause
still doing the
they-
discussion with
You
the
know,
city.
they're going to be on the cover, and then they're going to be walking from the cover to,
Right,
and that's a big wide area there.
right.
Could be dangerous.
Yes, we're doing that review with the city and looking at the cost to do that, Mr. Chavita, and then we're looking at what's still left in our
The sooner we
betterment.
can do it, the better off we're going to be.
Yes, sir.
That's great, looking great.
But we've had 4 games there, we're undefeated, we have 2 remaining games, and we hope we go undefeated.
That's great. I
At
was
home.
there last week, and it looked real nice. Well, you were there at the same time.
Yes, sir.
Just one other thing, the lights under the canopies, there were other lights that were also concerning.
On
out
the
in
wall.
field,
Yes.
Other lights. But also the circular stair, I mean, it looks really cute, but the kids are having a great great time, and one child fell on Friday. So I don't know if you could put, I don't know, something to lock it so that children don't play. I mean,
Yeah.
it's attractive looking. It looks like it's a
We will
fun
need to be,
slide.
I think there are a couple of issues there. There are some gates at the end of the bleachers that go out to the dugouts, and we want to keep kids away from that. Plus, they're at the stair, and I'm not sure whether a 3 or 4 foot high gate will work there or not, but it should. We may have to fence off that whole stair on there.
Safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the bathrooms are awesome.
Yes,
They are.
Other comments, questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Brings us to 5D on the agenda, Texas Music Educator Association information, Dr. Jorge Garza presenting.
Thank you, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Ackerman, and members of the board. Staying with the good news, we received a letter from Mr. Weir, President of the Texas Music Educators Association. In short, the letter is telling us that they are very proud, or this gentleman is very proud of the staff for the endless work that our music teachers are doing with our students, with the hundreds of students. And let me just give you an example. I'm sure you know this, but the band, the marching band, we'll get to the weekend in a little bit, the marching band, we were told by the judges when they actually did the marching contest that this was probably the biggest band that they had seen out there performing. So I know we're going to have over 300 members of the band next year. Also, the gentleman is telling us that they can see the teamwork that they're doing and how much they're helping their students with the self-esteem and dedication into music. They want to thank you, the board, for the continued support that you show the music program. And he closes with, please help me applaud their endless work that they always do. As an example, this past weekend, we had 3 bands competing. The Wind Ensemble, which is conducted by Mr. Rios, they got a Division I in concert and sight reading. We also had the concert band the conductor is Mr. Aldaco, which also got straight ones in concert and sight reading. And also the symphonic band, conducted by Mr. White, they received a Division I in concert. The 2 previous bands, the Wind Ensemble and the concert band, received sweepstakes, meaning that they got Division I in marching and Division I in concert and sight reading. So congratulations to them. Thank you.
Now on agenda item 5E, information on notice of grant award for the Special Education Idea B Formula and Preschool Grants 2012-13 Maximum Entitlements. Dr. Deanna Aguirre presenting.
Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Ackerman, and members of the board. We received notice of grant award for our Idea B formula and our Idea B preschool for our maximum entitlements. The award for Idea B is in the amount of $260,003, and the award for the Idea B preschool is $953. Are there any questions?
Questions on this information item? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item 5F, information on notice of grant awards for the No Child Left Behind 2012-2013 reallocation. Michelle Smith presenting.
Mr. Garabedian, Superintendent Ackerman, members of the board, we have received a notice of grant award for a reallocation for our Title I Part A Improving Basic Programs in the amount of $30,747, bringing our total to $4,326,130. We have also received a reallocation for our Title I Part C Migrant in the amount of $37,121, bringing our total to $1,289,178. Do I have any questions?
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item 5G, attendance rates to date by school. Mr. Luna, Rene Luna presenting.
Good evening, Mr. President, honorable board members, Dr. Ackerman. My name is Rene Luna, and tonight I have a presentation with the ADA report. The district enrollment as of April the 5th was 10,299. We have the cumulative ADA report, and that report, of course, has the cumulative and comparative. We have the April 15th, 2013, today's presentation date, but we have the 2012-2013 school year and a comparison with the 2011-2012 school year. And then, of course, we have the ranking report with the elementaries and the secondaries separated, of course. Ruben Chavira ranked number 1 this month for, March 2013 with 97.26, Buena Vista 97.16, Lamar Elementary 97.03, Garfield 96.88, Dr. Lonnie Green 96.57, Dr. Fermin Calderon 96.55, North Heights Elementary 95.88, and Irene Cardwell 94.27. For secondary campuses, San Felipe Memorial 95.87, Del Rio Middle School 95.76, Del Rio Freshman School 95.45, and Del Rio High School 93.39.
Questions, discussion? Ms. Lozano?
Mr. Luna, I'm not sure if you can answer this or not. Maybe Dr. Sally, I don't know.
Yeah, she's in the back.
Regarding the 93.39 for March, compared to last year's March value of 95.67. Was that still due to the
Testing a lot, and again, I'm not trying to make excuses, but you've got the way the state calendar is set up, like in February, you had the testing that was set up for your seniors, or for the 11th grade ELA, and then some of your sophomores don't come in, or your seniors that have already passed their test don't come in. And then in March, we've had another year. I mean, like, we just finished testing last week, and we're testing again next week, our tax kids, and even though we try to stick to the routine, you know what, we're still having classes, some students do not attend. And so we're also having some challenges. I know that I've had some communication with Dr. Ackerman, where we've been going to court, taking some kids that are excessively absent. But also, too, when a child is 18 years old or older, you can't file on them, you know, and a lot of times, and I'm not going to say everybody, but we're talking about like 20 kids. Well, that adds up if they're absent continuously. And so, again, it has a lot to do with the testing and a lot of the benchmarking as well, where Dr. Garza and I have had conversations too. You cannot compare the testing calendar for 2011 to 2012 to 2012, 2013. It seems like every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks we're testing.
Are there plans to try to create ways to incentivize the kids to
We already started that, Mrs. Lozano. We already started giving, just 2 weeks ago, we were fortunate to receive some money from one of the local organizations, so we started giving out gift cards. And so what we're doing is kids who have, you know, 2 sophomores, 2 juniors, 2 seniors are getting a $10 gift card, you know, for McDonald's, for Sonic, to try to give out. So every week we're giving out, you know, $60 worth of incentives, trying to encourage, you know, and going over on the importance of attendance and talking to the kids and so forth. And again, following up with the parents, following up with calls, you know, having call outs as well. And so, but we are addressing that also.
And how about holding, and I don't know that this would be possible, but some kind of, whether it's an in-service or a seminar or something that our students could benefit from, whether it's wise, whether it's, I'm,
We've had different, fairs like that. At the beginning, let's say when it was the seniors it was juniors testing. So then we try to do as many things with cap and gown measurements and senior panoramics. Well, those are motivating, but you can only take so many senior panoramic pictures, and you can only measure them for a gown so many times. And so those were some of the options that we did, because that's what they've done in the past. It just seems that there's more testing because we're in the transition year with tax and STAR and EOC. We've had a judge come and talk to them, to the groups. We've had several parent meetings on attendance as well. We are talking to the kids about it, and so. Say that again? Yeah, S.F.D.R.C.I.S.D. And when we had one of our other testing, we did the S.F.D.R.C.I.S.D. testing for college and career readiness, and we also are having them come in and interpret their scores for them. So maybe, because right now we have so many seniors that don't know what they want to major in. So it's kind of like, you know what, you're strong in this. We did that on one of those testing. When the juniors were being tested, we had our seniors that were administered that test as well.
well, it sounds like you're doing some creative.
We're trying to, but we need to find out. I mean, I know we just had a report right on attendance, or we need to find out some other ideas, because I think other people are doing things differently. I mean, it's like we just went to our playoff game in San Antonio against Churchill, and like the whole school was there. And I thought, okay, how did they do that? The game was at 3:00. They were given a little ticket, and they turned in their ticket. I'm like, okay, we can take the kids to games or something, but they weren't marked absent for that day. And that whole school practically was at the stadium that day. It was like, so, anyway, just to find some incentives. Also, I know being a former elementary and a secondary administrator, the kids would get credit for being there at least at 9:00 or 10:00 and so forth. And so, trying to do that, but then we get into the credit issue as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have a question for me, Mr. Massa?
Sorry. Dr. Sally, just because again, a couple of years back, I know freshmen, we kept bringing it up 95. And I've noticed like in this report, since November, it started going, 1 percentage point. You look at November, December, and it just 1 percentage point. We don't want to wait until the very end, because what happens, and it was proven with freshmen, if they're not there, they're not going to get the instruction that they need to be able to be successful, and so there are the consequences. But besides all of that, everything else, we're getting less money from federal programs and everything else, and so we kind of focus on attendance.
I totally
so
understand
that we can concentrate on, receiving.
And I'm going to tell you too, Mr. Massa, we have 20 to 30 kids that come in late every day. I call kids personally. I know kids' cell numbers, and it's just like I call from my cell number and I block it so that they answer the phone. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I missed a call. It's Dr. Badetta. I need you to get here. We are calling. We have our assistant principal following up with it as well, because we know the importance. And I mean, they're not getting their. But unfortunately, the kids that are doing it a lot more are kids that have been doing it since junior high. Hello, they were mine at Ruben Chavita, and they're still being absent. But and I'm not trying to make up excuses. Mr. Mesa, Mrs. Lozano, we have over 2017 students. And, teachers are calling in. We also have the automatic call. Unfortunately, sometimes there's errors also, because we have duplicate names and your child's actually there and, we're calling too. But we have an automatic system too. If a child's absent 1st through 4th or 5th through 8th, they're called as well. We have letters that go out too, so.
Well, and just to raise the awareness, just, whatever needs to get done, just to make sure that, don't wait until the very end. That's all.
Exactly.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Questions?
Thank you. Thank you, Rena.
Thank you.
Thanks. Brings us to agenda item 5H, discipline report to date by school, presenting various principals. Ms. Adams or Ms. Moreira is first.
Good evening, everyone. I will be presenting for elementary. We will start with Garfield. Our March discipline offenses, a total of 3.
action. 1 received a parent conference and 2 lunch detention. You also notice a new graph. We decided to show the same data but a little different. So of Garfield's 865 students, only 1% received a discipline referral. Buena Vista, 1 code of misconduct and 1 out-of-school suspension, and as well, 1% of her population. Fermin Calderon Elementary, 3 code of conduct violations, 1 in-school suspension, 1 corrective counseling, and 1 removal of privileges. And again, about 1% of students received referrals where 99 did not receive any. Dr. Lonnie Green, 5 code of conduct referrals, 1 parent conference, 1 corrective counseling, and 3 lunch detention. Again, about the same amount of data. North Heights, we had 18 code of misconduct, 3 out-of-school suspensions, 1 in-school suspension, 4 detention, and 10 corrective counseling. Hers was 98% of students did not receive a referral. Lamar, 2 code of conduct referrals, 1 parent conference, and 1 corrective counseling. And as well, 99% of students did not receive a referral. Chavita Elementary, 10 code of conduct offenses. We had 2 out-of-school suspensions, 1 parent conference, 2 removal of privileges, and 5 lunch detention action codes. As well, Ruben Chavita, 2% received a referral where 98 did not. And total, all the elementary data of the 4,050 students in March at that snapshot, 1% of our students received some sort of violation referral to the office where 99% did not. Any questions?
Questions, comments? Okay, thank you. Who's next? Mrs. Adams?
Good evening, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Ackerman, members of the board. I'm here to present the offense report and action report for San Felipe Memorial. As you can see from the PowerPoint, we had 19 students who had a violation of the Student Code of Conduct. These include things such as persistent misbehavior, skipping. We had 46 students in subordination. These include things like tardies, disruptive, defiant. 10 of those were bus referrals. And then we did have 3 fights. On the action, we have 10 who had out-of-school suspension, 11 in-school suspension, 1 was placed at the alternative center, 18 had detention, 3 had official parent conferences because I do have a conference with all the parents for all of the referrals. 11 had corrective counseling. There was 3 partial day ISS, 6 where they had their privileges removed, 1 after school detention, and then 10 had lunch detention. Okay, do you have any questions?
Questions, discussion?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Ackerman, members of the board. Mr. Valdez and I will be presenting the March discipline report for Del Rio Middle School. We're going to start off with our offenses. We had 7 code of conducts. We had 1 assault. We had 77 insubordination, and we had 4 students that were in a fight, which was a total of 2 fights. Our actions for the month of March were 7 students that were placed in out-of-school suspension. We had 3 students in ISS. We had 1 student that was placed at the Alternative Center. We had 44 students placed in a detention. We had 30 students placed that were corrective counseled, and we had 5 students with partial OSS, which is half a day of suspension. Is there any questions?
Questions?
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Dr. Garabedian. I'm sorry, Mr. Garabedian.
You know, that's like
I keep doing
That's like
that.
the 4th time you've awarded me a
I
doctorate.
know, I am so sorry. Dr. Ackerman and members of the board, these are the freshman discipline offenses. We had 1 controlled substance, 28 code of conduct, 26 insubordination, and 2 fighting. And actions for Del Rio Freshman School, we had 11 out-of-school suspension, 1 in-school suspension, 1 was placed at the SGLC, 33 for detention, 4 corrective counseling, 7 partial day OSS, and then 1, the telephone was confiscated. And that's our report for the freshman school. Is there any questions?
Questions or discussion? Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, you're, see, I would be flattered if.
Watch me make the same mistake.
You won't feel bad. Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Ackerman, I'm Mr. Gonzalez. I'll be presenting for the high school. For the high school, we had 5 code of conducts, 1 emergency placement. You have 61 insubordinations and 1 fight, 2 individuals in a fight. Our actions, we had 3 out-of-school suspensions, 5 in-school suspensions, 15 detentions, and 46 corrective counselings. Any questions, comments? It was a good month, if you can call it a good month.
No questions for Mr. Gonzalez? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Brings us to agenda item 5I, information on administration change at Val Verde Nursing and Rehabilitation Center. Mr. Roger Gonzalez presenting.
Good evening, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Ackerman, members of the board. I'm here to inform you of some administrative changes at Val Verde Nursing and Rehab Center. Maria Cristina Guerra is a new administrator at Val Verde Nursing and Rehab Center. This nursing facility serves as a clinical training site for students enrolled in CNA, our Certified Nursing Assistance Program at Del Rio High School. This medical facility will provide students the opportunity to have members of their staff serve as mentors as students practice what they have learned in class and obtain their 40 hours of training requirement. Any questions?
Who was the previous director?
The previous director was, God, can't remember anymore. She wasn't actually from here. She actually was here for a couple of months and then actually left, but she wasn't actually from here.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Other question, Mr. Chavita?
How many students do we have enrolled?
In the CNA program, we have 17 students enrolled.
17?
17.
That's good.
Other questions?
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you for that update. It's about 6:50, and we're now on agenda item 6, which brings us to the consent agenda, consent A. being consideration to approve minutes of the following meetings: March 18th, 2013, regular school board meeting, March 20th, 2013, special called board meeting, April 2nd, 2013, special called board meeting. So under consent A, does any board member wish to pull any items from that consent agenda for discussion? I did make a couple of very minor typo type changes, but it's the same. Betty put it out on the table. You can see. Is there a motion to approve the items on the consent A agenda? Dr. Keys has motion, Mr. Mesa has second. All in favor by a show of hands? It's unanimous, motion carries. Brings us to consent B. Does any board member wish to pull any items from the consent B agenda for discussion? Mr. Mesa.
Right, I had a question, maybe, it had to do with item P.
Okay, hold on one moment. Okay, all right. Okay. On consent B, Dr. Ackerman just reminded me that S, consent BS, is being pulled. So that's not going to be approved when we make the motion. And I'm sorry, what was your question, Mr. Mesa?
Item P, it has to do with purchase order for Century Security. Is this, I guess, for the whole district?
This was the additional after they got written up. The Head Start was written up for the additional, what do you call it? Motion, and the, no, not the motion detector. Smoke detector in each room.
Okay. That's all.
Yeah, that was a little bit more than what was original. When was it, 2 months ago? Other questions? Okay. Remember, we're pulling S under that consent agenda B. So, that said, is there a motion to approve the items on consent agenda B? Mr. Overfelt has motioned, Mr. Mesa has second. All in favor, by a show of hands. Motion carries, unanimous. And before we move on, as is the custom, under consent agenda B were a number of donations. So at this time, we'll recognize those individuals and organizations publicly. There is a donation from Dr. Lonnie Green Elementary PTO in the amount of $209.35, donated to Dr. Lonnie Green Elementary PE Department. There is a donation from Del Rio Chamber of Commerce in the amount of $200, donated to Del Rio High School Metal Trades. There was a donation from Todd Townsend in the amount of $190, also to Del Rio High School Metal Trades. There was a donation from the Del Rio Chamber of Commerce in the amount of $450, donated to Del Rio High School Electrical Trades. A donation from Texas Community Bank in the amount of $50, donated to Teachers of the Year Award. There was a donation from Border Federal Credit Union in the amount of $350, donated to Teachers of the Year Award. A donation from the Bank and Trust in the amount of $500, donated to Teachers of the Year Award. A donation from ExxonMobil Corporation Educational Alliance Program in the amount of $500, donated to Irene C. Cardwell Elementary. Donation from ExxonMobil Corporation Educational Alliance Program, also in the amount of $500, donated to Lamar Elementary. And finally, a donation from Life Touch in the amount of $526, donated to Ruben Chavita Elementary. So we thank all of those donors, and we appreciate your support of the district, its students, staff, and programs. Okay, agenda item 8, discussion action items. First one being 8A, consideration to approve the administration to select the most highly qualified auditing service provider finalist. Approve the administration negotiate an engagement letter in agreement with the most highly qualified auditor service finalist at a fair and reasonable fee, and approve the administration to select the next most highly qualified provider and attempt to negotiate an engagement letter and agreement with the provider at a fair and reasonable fee in the event that a satisfactory engagement letter and agreement cannot be negotiated with the initial finalist. Kind of sorry I read that whole thing verbatim after
I want it to
reading
be
all
very
that.
specific.
It was very specific. Ms. Valdez presenting.
Good evening, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Ackerman, board members. We initiated the RFQ process for the selection of audit services with 2 advertisements in February in the Del Rio News Herald and also by posting it on our website. We received 4 responses with our deadline being March 20th. And we are in the process of evaluating their qualifications. But with your approval for us to select the most highly qualified auditing service provider finalist and to negotiate an engagement letter, we will bring back the finalist to the May 20th board meeting. Do you have any questions?
Questions or discussion on this one? Mr. Mesa? Yes, go ahead.
Yanakani, is this a lapse of time that, we had our auditor, that we've used in the past,
Leal and Carter?
Leal and Carter. Was there a contract up or?
We have the option of keeping them for 5 years. However, every year we bring that back to the board.
Okay, so,
We had their auditing services for 4 years.
okay, so actually, the recommendation that you're making is, it'll come back to us on May the 20th after you make a selection, and then we'll find out who the auditing firm that
Yes,
you've recommended?
yes.
Okay. Bless you.
Bless you.
Your questions?
Okay.
Okay, the recommendation.
I'll read the recommendation. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the administration to select the most highly qualified auditing service provider finalist, approve the administration to negotiate an engagement letter and agreement with the most highly qualified auditor service finalist at a fair and reasonable fee, and approve the administration to select the next most highly qualified provider and attempt to negotiate an engagement letter and agreement with that provider at a fair and reasonable fee in the event that a satisfactory engagement letter and agreement cannot be negotiated with the initial finalist.
We've heard the recommendation, and I so move. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Chavita seconds. All in favor by a show of hands? It's unanimous. Motion carries. Thank you for
Thank you.
that and for moving forward with that, Dr. Ackerman. Item B, consideration to approve the remaining East Side Library books as surplus. Again, Ms. Valdez presenting.
Good evening again. We did pull this item from last month's board meeting. There was some pending information that we wanted to validate. But when the East Side Library was closed, those books were offered to other campuses, and they were stored at one of our district's buildings. Now that we're clearing that building out, again, the books were offered to the campuses, and what is remaining, we're requesting to be declared as surplus and will be offered to the parents. There is a process to, once the board approves for them to be declared surplus, there is a process where we have to mark the books out and remove some stampings and stamp them that they're surplus material. We estimate that might take about 2 months, but if it takes less, as soon as we're ready to communicate, we'll let the board know. That way we can send out the communication for the parents to go and pick up the books.
Ms. Lozano has a question.
How many books are we talking about? Do you have any idea? How many thousands?
There was about, was it 45
There were like
boxes?
45 boxes, and those boxes contained anywhere from 50 to 150 books, depending on the size.
Size of the books.
And no one wanted them. Huh?
Well, the other libraries had been updated with new books, so.
Actually, what we did, we took one step further, and all the elementary librarians went once again to go select some books, and they actually selected more books from that selection. At this point, we are on hold.
Thank you.
Mr. Overfelt.
So after the letter goes out to parents and stuff's left over, what happens to all the ones that are left over?
Well,
Are
Ms.
we
Paula,
going
if you want to come up here and let us know the correct process.
Good evening. Once the books have been offered to all the parents, any books that are left, the board has a choice. We can put them on surplus sale as long as each book is marked discard, or they can be offered to schools in Mexico. It could be, sometimes the schools in Mexico come over and purchase our surplus desks and tables and chairs, and it may well be that the schools, would be interested in having those for their libraries, for English classes, or, whatever, or they could be destroyed. It would be up to you.
Ms. Lozano?
Is there anything that precludes us from offering some of these books to maybe some of the private schools here?
Well, when we would have to look into that, Ms. Lozano, but when we had other ideas, we looked into it and we would have to create an interlocal agreement and sell it to them at a
Fair market
value. Yeah.
It gets real involved
What would
because
the
you're.
fair market value be if we're giving it away to parents?
I know. That's where the gentleman mentioned, it's kind of hard to put a fair market value on these books if they're no longer necessary, but they still mentioned and put it in writing that we would have to put a price on them. So it would, again, if that is the board's choice, then we would bring it back to you with that information.
And most of those library books, I will tell you, are really old books. They're not books that the young children today would even be interested in checking out, I don't think, most of them. I think the librarians selected all the ones that they thought students would be interested in reading, and a lot of them are in very poor condition,
Thank you, Paula.
Any other questions? Mr. Mesa?
I know in the past, like Texas Association of School Boards has asked different boards when, someone is sponsoring a conference and to donate books to the crisis center that they have in that area for those children that are there, and they always ask for different age groups. And I know that was a worthy cause because, again, we're now asked to donate items, food items for their pantries. But I think Ms. Lozano's question, is very important because, again, there's, I think, different organizations that are asking for different things. And I think, I know this paperwork prohibits us from helping these organizations, but there are a lot of private schools and that they service the children from our community here. And, so we kind of think like that would be a good idea to have them take our books that we don't longer need, but I know that there's paperwork involved. And so TASB has a need, and our community has a need, and again, the crisis centers in different areas of our state. We don't have a crisis center here, but a lot of larger areas have children that are housed there temporary.
I see.
It's just something to think about.
Anything else?
Are y'all ready for the recommendation?
Yes.
Okay. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the classification of the Eastside Library books as surplus property.
Further recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Chavita has motioned, Dr. Keys has seconded. All in favor by a show of hands? 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold them up? Yeah, okay. Unanimous, motion carries.
Thank you.
Agenda item 8C, consideration to approve submittal of the Head Start Continuance Funding Grant application in the amount of $2,063,315 with an FS of $517,490 for a total amount of $2,580,000 $1,805 to Region 6 Head Start Office, along with a self-assessment, community assessment, training and technical assistance plan. Ms. Linda Wanawato Webb presenting.
Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Ackerman, members of the board, we're going to be presenting the Head Start grant for next year, for 2013-2014. And we have it in a PowerPoint presentation, so you don't have to be going back and forth through your packets like we did last year, so we try to make it a little bit better for you. Our grant right now is for $2,063,315 with training and technical assistance in the total amount of $30,776. Again, the federal grant would be $2,063,315. Non-federal shares would be $517,490 for a total for the grant $2,580,805. Now, the area in gray would have been our grant application without the 5% reduction. With the 5% reduction, committee and policy council met to look at where could we reduce over $108,000. In looking at all of the different areas, and you do have this in your information, in looking at all of these areas, we had a total of $88,411. However, we were still missing $20,185. When we looked at that, we also looked at our staffing. So we decided that, all right, if we need to reduce some more to meet the $108,000, we would look at reducing one of our teachers. However, when we also looked at the PA-14 payroll adjustment for March 15, 2015, we also realized that with those figures, we also had to not only reduce a teacher, but we also had to reduce an instructional assistant to be able to meet the $108,411, I believe, for the 5% reduction. So the grant allocation that I'm going to be asking the board for approval on would be on the 5% reduction, which is a total of $2,063,315 with the non-federal shares of $517,490 for a total grant of $2,580,805. Questions?
Questions? Mr. Chavita?
You know, I know it's, we always talk about hard times and all this type of thing, but I sure do hate for the professional people to be, you said one member will be
Yes, sir.
one less. I think we need to work on trying to get this. I think Mr. Mess and I, we discussed it some years back. We always talked about the program being, it's a must. We don't want any of our kids to stay behind. And if they miss 1 year, they'll never be able to be covered. So, you know, we attend a lot of meetings and we hear about if a student doesn't have some good teachers at the beginning, they'll never catch up. And here, if we delete one teacher, that means that the numbers are going to be, instead of maybe a ratio of 18 or whatever it is that you have, it's going to be more. So I think that we need to work something out. I know right now it's no time to talk about it, but during our budget, we need to bring it up where we can get another teacher somewhere.
And I'd like to mention something. You know, for years we worked on trying to get the facilities to accommodate more students because some years back we had something like 125 students on the waiting list. And so that was a concern. Let's try to get all these kids in and try to get some additional monies. Not through your fault, you know, the sequester came about. And so we're losing 5% instead of gaining. But I'm with the same concern that, you know, not only are we losing a professional staff member, you know, we're serving less students. And I think to me, are we serving less students because
Our funded enrollment is 346.
Okay.
We would keep the same funded enrollment, because if we reduce students, we reduce the allocation of the funds as well. So by keeping the 346 students, what that would do to our current staff, everybody would increase by another student in the classroom, which we can if we keep no more than 20 students per classroom. We can't have more than that. However, in past years, we have tried to maintain between 17, 18, 19, no more than 20. Because of the fact that we do house 3-year-olds, and sometimes the 3-year-olds, by the time they turn 3, it's September 1st. So you're actually dealing with a 2-year-old that just turned 3. But we would not lose the funded allocation, which is 346. It's just staff or classes would increase by another student.
If I'm correct, the federal guideline tells you that you have to have 1 adult for every 10 students.
Correct.
And so then you would accommodate the 346 students then?
Right.
Just, I mean, barely. And how many students do you have on your waiting list right now?
I want to say about 54, 50-something.
And see, again, to echo the words that, my colleague here, Mr. Chavira, mentioned, is I think this would be money well spent, because again, I see the tremendous rewards from not only the students, being serviced there, but the parents. These parents are given all kinds of training sessions and opportunities for them to be better parents and empower them to do above and beyond what they're doing now, to be able to, just understand how education is so important. And so I'm with the same thinking that, this is money well spent, that if we can find the means, and I know that, we're receiving less money in federal programs everywhere, and this is not something that came about because of your administration, but it's something that all of us are facing, and so, but I hope that we kind of keep that in mind when we do go into the budget workshops, to be able to come up with that additional money for that teacher.
I can tell you right now, Mr. Mesa, that we are very proud of the campus and the staff that's on that campus. The campus has received the award from TEA on a Pre-Kinder Center of Excellence, and we want to continue with that same goal in mind. I know with the cutbacks, there are things that we're going to have to definitely think outside the box so that we can maintain that caliber of excellence that we want to have. So I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Unfortunately, we didn't know from the federal government on this one until what, March the 1st, was that it? I remember asking the 2 women that were here, and that was when? February, right? Early February? And they didn't have an answer. So it wasn't until about a month ago that we knew the 5% was going to affect Head Start.
Any other questions on the grant?
Okay.
The next area is our self-assessment. Our self-assessment is part of our grant, and we were very fortunate this year that we had our federal reviewers here, because some of the areas that we found, we noticed that they also found, but along with that, we found other areas that we want to also improve on. Our self-assessment was reviewed by our campus committee and our policy council on February 18th, and approved by our policy council on the 21st of March. Our self-assessment, which is basically the foundation of everything we do, we always have to look at what we're doing. And the areas that we look at collecting data and analyzing the information is, of course, child health and safety, family and community engagement, childhood development and education, of course, the fiscal, the management systems, program governance, and of course, our registration and eligibility. Some of the areas that we felt as a campus that we were out of compliance were in the areas of child health and safety, as far as ensuring the health coordinators, our nurses, make sure that they have CPR instruction training, and are certified in CPR. With family and community engagement, to make sure that we have implementation and a written policy to follow up on procedures with our parents. with our management system to develop a system to ensure that timely assessments and screenings are complete. And that was one of the areas that are also, our reviewers also noted. And of course, on our program governance, to provide more training to accommodate the new members of our policy council, and those are new members that would be coming in. Those are the areas that we felt we needed to work on a little bit more. The areas that we felt as a committee that we are in compliance with, of course, is the childhood development and education, the fiscal area, and of course, the eligibility, recruitment, and selection committee. Are there any questions on this self-assessment? Okay. Then we will move down to the community assessment. The community assessment is another part of our grant that we also look at yearly and review in depth every 3 years. The committee reviewed and policy council again on February 18th, and was approved by our policy council March 21st. The areas that community assessment look at, first of all, we look at our total census, and of course our census was dated back in 2010. We also look at our enrollment, our pre-kinder families, the number of membership students, and students with disabilities within the community. Right now, the area in parentheses, you have 346, that's what I just stated right now, that's our funded enrollment. At the present time, we're serving 65 students that are 3-year-old and 281 that are 4. Any questions on the community assessment? Okay. The next area that we look at is our training and technical assistance. This again was also reviewed by committee and policy council on February 18th and approved by the policy council March 21st. In the area of training and technical assistance, the area that we felt we needed to grow on was the health tracking system, and that's one of the areas also cited by the reviewers. The management ongoing monitoring and tracking, our family community engagement and tracking, our human resource and staff development, and in our program management, record keeping, reporting, and again, the tracking. A lot of it has to do with tracking and keeping track of what we're doing. Any questions on the technical assistance?
Any question?
So may I make a recommendation?
Yes, please.
It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the submittal of the attached application for the Head Start continuance funding for the 2013-2014 fiscal year, including the self-assessment, community assessment, training, and technical assistance, and that Mr. Garabedian be authorized to sign for submittal to the Head Start headquarters as presented.
We've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to accept? Mr. Chavita has motioned. I second. All in favor by show of hands? Unanimous. Motion carries. Thank you. That brings us to D, consideration to approve submittal of the school readiness plan and campus improvement maintenance plan for Head Start to the appropriate Head Start headquarters. Again, Ms. Linda Wanawat-Webb presenting.
Okay, on our campus improvement plan, our mission and our vision, you also have those. And I've got another copy of it for you because the one in your packet right now has been updated. And as we know, our campus plans, we always look at them on a regular basis, and there's always updates that we do throughout the year. Mr. Garcia, would you pass these on, please? Thank you. The campus improvement plan, and the reason I asked Mr. Garza to pass those out is because you're going to notice something in that one that you don't have in yours, which is this section right here in red. Unfortunately, yours is not in red, it's in black because DMAC will not allow us to use or to put color in there. It's all printed in black. Now, this particular item is not a copy from DMAC. It's actually created by Word and Table, but it looks exactly like your DMAC area. the area in green, because one of the areas that we look at is, of course, our strategies. We look at the persons responsible, the timeline, the resources, and the evaluation. Under resources, DMAC allows us to put in the money allocation. Whatever money that we have allocated to that particular item or that particular strategy, it allows us to put it in there. However, it will not allow us to put in what we are going to use as a resource to accomplish that strategy. Now, in working with Mr. Garza, this particular item right in here is going to be under strategies, because DMAC will not allow us to have it under resources. On here, you see it here because, like I said, this was created with Word and chart. So I was able to put it in here. So in your packet for the campus plan, it will be under strategies and activities. The area that I have highlighted in green, which is our quarterly compliance, I have a committee that we look at our campus plan on a quarterly basis, and that's our accountability system. And when the committee looks at it, we determine, yes, did we complete that goal, or no, did we not? Why and why not? So this is our accountability system. And again, in working with Mr. Garza, since DMAC will not allow us to add a table or another column, this one will, because it was developed on chart, but not DMAC. We have come to an agreement that we will be placing that particular item under evaluation. Now, for example, on the bottom one, you don't see money allocation in here. However, you will see in the one that was presented to you what we are going to use to accomplish that particular strategy. Here we have another sample of it. Now, what DMAX does allow us to do, all of the strategies that have money allocations, we can always do a last page, so we say, because DMAC will have a resource page, but it is always at the end. And what we would rather do is put it next to it so that we can see when we are evaluating it that we are doing what we said we were going to do. So, are there any questions on the campus improvement plan?
Questions?
Okay. The other item that you have is our school readiness plan. Our school readiness plan is a plan that we started implementing last year. And what we do here, we have a committee again. With the committee, we have our education coordinator, we also have Mr. Peter Koji from Lonnie Green, who is one of our kinder teachers. So on here, you look at the Head Start outcomes, our school readiness goals, and what Texas TEA says for getting our students ready for pre-kinder guidelines, and what we need to do to get ready for kinder. And one of the recommendations was that we visit with one of the kinder teachers. So once we have completed our plan, we email it to Mr. Koji, and he looks at it to make sure that we are not leaving anything out that our students are going to be lacking when they go into kinder. And I think that last year, and Mr. Lee was here with us, and I think last year he only made one recommendation that we went ahead and included it in there. So here you look at Head Start outcomes, our school readiness goals, Texas pre-kinder guidelines, who's responsible, professional development, parent education, time frame, our curriculum, and our assessment. So actually, within our campus improvement plan, you're looking at a lot of assessments that we do between our school readiness and our campus improvement plan. So, any questions?
Questions?
May I read the recommendation?
Yes, please.
It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the submittal of the attached school readiness plan and campus improvement maintenance plan to be submitted to the appropriate Head Start headquarters as presented.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Chavita's motion. Is there a second? Mr. Overfelt, a second. All in favor by a show of hands? Unanimous, motion carries. Brings us to agenda item 8E, consideration to approve training contract with Lisa Horton for training on peak specificity at Del Rio Middle School. Ms. Ida Gomez presenting.
Good evening, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Ackerman, members of the board. As part of the TIPS grant plan, we do have a section that's allocated to just staff development. And in meeting with our math department, a need has arisen for some training. They feel that they need training on peak specificity, and Lisa Horton is able to provide that. She has worked with our staff before on pacing calendars, bell-to-bell instruction, and instructional delivery. This particular agenda item, she would be working with our teachers for 4 days. That would allocate her to work with 7th grade for 2 days and 8th grade for 2 days. All of this is after the assessment and in preparation for summer and for next year. Any questions?
Questions? Mr. Overfeld?
How much longer is left on the existing grant that we're under right now? Is it one more year?
Yes, sir. We just received notification that the 3rd year was approved. We found out about 2 weeks ago. So this grant will expire July 31st. We're trying to allocate all the funds and spend them all, and then it starts again August 1st. Yes, sir.
Questions? Okay.
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve for the interim superintendent to sign the contract and authorization of payment to Lisa Horton as presented.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Overfeld has motioned. Is there a second? Mr. Chavita has seconded. All in favor by a show of hands? It's unanimous. Motion carries. Mr. Chavita, you voted in favor, correct? Unanimous. Motion
Thank
carries.
you.
Agenda item 8F, consideration to approve contract for speaker services with Eric Bostic for Del Rio Middle School. Ms. Ida Gomez presenting.
Again, good evening. Another section of the grant allows for motivational speakers and presenters to come to talk to our students and or our staff. One of the things that we're looking at is to have Eric Bostic come back. He is a motivational speaker that would come in on the Monday before the actual assessments for summer school for Tuesday and Wednesday, and the EOC that would be the following week. Eric Bostic has presented here before. I've taken my students to the Del Rio High School when I was the principal at Ruben Chavita. We're looking at a one-day contract with him, and we're looking to split it up. He does a Heroes Are Us type unit, but 6 hours just seems like a long time for that, so we want him to speak to our non-SSI students on just setting goals and staying on track, and then motivating them for next year, and then our SSI students that have to test, and our EOC students, and just reminding them that if they stay focused, they can reach their goals. Any questions?
Mr. Overfeld.
It's the same gentleman that was here a couple years ago, well, more than a couple years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, right at Convocation. The same Eric Bostic?
Yes, sir.
I don't remember him.
Yeah.
Yes?
Superman. He's
Yes,
good.
Superman. Yes, Superman.
Yeah, he's really good. So I hope that everybody gets to attend that. He's one of the more memorable ones out of all the convocations I went to. That's good.
Other questions? Okay.
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approves for the interim superintendent to sign the contract and authorization of payment to Eric Bostic as presented.
Heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to accept? Mr. Overfeld has motion. Mr. Mesa has second. All in favor by a show of hands? It's unanimous. Motion carries.
Thank you.
That brings us to agenda item 8G. Consideration to approve contract with Sul Ross State University, Rio Grande College for use of classrooms to conduct AP testing. Dr. Jorge Garza presenting.
Thank you, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Ackerman, members of the board. Once again, we are asking for your permission to get the interim superintendent to sign this contract. We have AP testing, and we need the students to test in a centralized area. We've done this several years, so we contract Sul Ross State University and Rio Grande College to allow us for some rooms and it would cost us $3,800. Well, I should say that we have just adjusted it $3,700. And this will be dates May 6th through the 18th. Are there any questions?
Questions? Okay, recommendation?
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approves for the interim superintendent to sign the contract and authorization of payment to Sul Ross State University Rio Grande College as presented.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Chavita has motioned. We need a second. Ms. Haynes has second. All in favor by a show of hands? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favor. All opposed?
Abstain.
1 abstention. Dr. Hughes is abstaining.
Thank you, sir.
Motion carries. Thank you. Brings us to item 8H, consideration to approve contract with Sul Ross State University Rio Grande College for use of classrooms to conduct the retirement ceremony. Dr. Patricia McNamara presenting.
Good evening, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Ackerman, members of the board. A contract with Sul Ross State University Rio Grande College is being requested for the use of the auditorium, 2 classrooms, and technical support. This has been an annual tradition here in our district to have our retirement ceremony at Sul Ross University Rio Grande College. The retirement ceremony is scheduled for May 23rd. It is a total cost of $600. It has been appropriately budgeted in my HR account. And again, this has been a tradition for the last few years to have it in the auditorium so that we can honor our retirees.
Questions or discussion? It's a nice auditorium. I remember last year. It's a nice setup that y'all did. It's a good place to do it.
Thank you.
Recommendation?
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve for the interim superintendent to sign the contract and authorization of payment to Sul Ross State University Rio Grande College as presented this evening.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Mesa has motion. Mr. Chavita has second. All in favor by a show of hands? 6 in favor, all opposed. Any abstentions? Dr. Keyes abstains. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Agenda item 8I, consideration to approve training contract with Skyward to train special programs. Michelle Smith presenting.
Good evening once again. The directors of special programs are requesting consultant services for Skyward to train our program personnel in the use of Skyward. We're in our 2nd year, and we realize as we peel back the layers of Skyward that there's more and more that we're discovering on a daily basis. We know that data is everything. It relates to our AYP, it relates to our PBMAS, our accountability, our funding. So we know that our data has to be spot on in order for us to be able to get where we need to be. What we would like is for Skyward to come in and do a 3-day training for bilingual, for special ed, for the federal programs, in particular migrant, so that we can train our office personnel to know not just how to navigate through the system, which is pretty much all they know right now, but what goes into the reports that we need to run, as well as the directors. We're finding that we don't have the knowledge that we need to make sure that the data that we put into the system, which eventually will come out in our PEMS reports, we don't have that knowledge to run the reports that we need to make sure that our data is clean and accurate and spot on. So we're requesting those 3 days of training from May 21st to the 23rd for a cost of $4,485, and that is budgeted in the Title I fund under district improvement, since our district is in district improvement.
Questions or discussion? No? Okay, the recommendation, please.
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approves for the interim superintendent to sign the contract and authorization of payment to Skyward as presented.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Mesa has motion, Mr. Chavita has second. All in favor by a show of hands? It's unanimous, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item 8J, consideration to approve training contract with the Gravely Group for Policy Council Orientation Training. Ms. Linda Wanawata Webb presenting.
Under contracted services and training, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Ackerman, school board members, first of all, I need to make a correction on that particular item. Consideration to approve training contract with Gravely Group for Policy Council and school board members. That is something that is a requirement from Head Start, both Policy Council and school board members. So that was missing in there. This is Mr. Gravely. Mr. Gravely has been our presenter for the last couple of years, and he does provide excellent training for our Policy Council and for the school board on the program governance. So are there any questions?
Questions? Discussion? It's a good training. I enjoyed it last time. Okay, the recommendation?
The recommendation is, it is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve for the interim superintendent to sign the contract and authorize payment for the Gravely Group as presented.
For the recommendation, and I so move to accept. Is there a second? Mr. Mesa, a second. All in favor by a show of hands? It's unanimous, motion carries. Thank you. Item K, consideration to approve contract for services with Dr. Nancy Modi to provide mental health assessment and evaluation services in accordance with the Head Start program performance standards. Ms. Wanawata Webb again presenting.
This is Dr. Nancy Amadei. She is a clinical psychologist, and she has been providing services for the Head Start program for numerous years. And we're going to be asking that she also return again for next year. One of the things that I will tell the board, due to our 5% cutback, normally she was coming twice a year, first semester and second semester, to provide services for our students. Due to cutback, she will only be able to come once. So are there any questions?
Mr. Mesa.
Will that suffice the requirements for
Yes.
Head Start?
Any questions?
It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve for the interim superintendent to sign the contract and authorize payment to Dr. Nancy Amadei as presented.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mrs. Lozano has motion, Mr. Chavita has second. All in favor by a show of hands? It's unanimous, motion carries. Item L, consideration to approve contract with Crystal Flores as a Head Start nutritionist. Again, Ms. Wanawata Webb presenting.
Okay. You have another picture up here on the right. Crystal Flores, she is a nutritionist, and she started working with us this year for a little bit. And it was one of the areas that our program was cited 3 years ago that we did not have a nutritionist on site. So we had contracted with Dr. Christine Anderson, who has now left Del Rio. So we were very fortunate to find Crystal Flores. So are there any questions regarding that?
Questions or discussion? This one? No? The recommendation?
It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve for the interim superintendent to sign the contract and authorize payment to Crystal Flores as presented.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Chavita has motioned. Ms. Haynes has second. All in favor by a show of hands? It's unanimous, motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item 8M, consideration to approve memorandums of understanding in accordance with section 642E5 of the Head Start Act. Head Start agencies, grantees are required to enter into a memorandum of understanding with appropriate local entities. Ms. Wanawata Webb presenting.
Before I go into the memorandums of understanding, I would like to also introduce Dr. Beck and Dr. Barnes, and you will be seeing a contract with them shortly from UTSA. Memorandums of understanding are interagency agreements. Head Start, along with community agency, equals our memorandums of understanding. and that is part of our Head Start requirements. Section 1304.41, and I'm not going to read all of those, but it is one of the requirements. Some of the memorandums of understanding, I'm not going to go into the names of everybody you have in there because you're going to see them up on the PowerPoint. Some of them are within the medical agencies, from Family Care Clinic, Amigo Dentistry, Cadena Family Services, Frontera Pediatrics, United Medical Center. Those are some of the medical agencies that we have agreements with. We also have what we call ASAC, which is Health Service Advisory Committee, and we meet at least 3 times a year with all of the agencies that will participate on that day, as you see in that particular picture. And what they do when they meet is they discuss the different areas that we might be needing assistance with, such as dental assistance, screenings, different things that we might need. They provide those services for us, and they also give us some advice as to what else we can do. Other agencies within the community that also work with us are, of course, in immunization, dental, medical, and family wellness. And this is evident not just a one-time basis that they come in. They come in throughout the year whenever we have activities going on our campus. For example, we will be having a Kids in Action Day, the 26th of this month, where we are going to be setting up different tents throughout the grounds, and some of these agencies will be available to provide services to our families. So you all are invited to also come by and see some of these agencies. Other agencies that we also work with are Salra State University, thank you, Dr. Keys, and Southwest Texas Junior College. And you have the little quote up here because this is what we hear our students saying as they board the bus. And they're telling their teachers and everybody waiting by the gate, we're going to college. Another agency that we work with is Casa de la Cultura. UT Health Science Center in San Antonio. And this is the one that we will be receiving a contract for because it's not just an interagency, it's also a contracted services from Dr. Beck and Dr. Barnes. But they also bring master students and they provide trainings to our families as well. Here you also have trainings from these agencies, the interagencies, that also provide trainings to our families throughout the year, and from the psychologists whom you just approved, the nutritionist, S.F.D.R.C.I.S.D, ECI, Health and Human Services Commission, and this is supposed to be orange just to do justice to UT, but it's not quite orange. Texas Department of Family Protective Services, Texas Department of Human Resources, Texas Agri-Life Extension Services, and these two, you do not have it in your packets because we just received them this week, but they will be included with the interagency agreements as well. The Mental Health and Development Disability Centers and the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Other agencies that also are part of our interagency agreement are Bible Way Christian Academy and Sacred Heart. In our Kids in Action, these students right here are all from Bible Way. They are transported by Bible Way and they help us run the activities because teachers cannot stay away from their students. They have to monitor their students and supervise them. So for the last 3 to 4 years, Bible Way has assisted us by allowing their students to come in and host the activities. Sacred Heart assists us through the, when we have our science fair, they provide some of the judging. Another interagency agreement is with Laughlin Air Force Base. And they come in and provide either through Black Heritage Month or come in and judge some of the events that we are hosting, from flight exploration to different items that we have going on the campus. This one right here is a requirement for Head Start. Every year we have to have training for staff on fire and rescue. The items that you see in the middle, this is provided every year at the beginning of the year to all staff members. And it's a requirement that we have to do along with child abuse training. Those are two definite requirements that we have to do. Now, along with that, they also come in and participate during our Kids in Action, depending on how hot it is with that costume on. But they do assist in other areas as well. But the main requirement and our main agreement with them is for the training on fire safety. The end. Questions?
Questions? Ms. Lozano has a
I just
question.
had a couple of questions. Some of these interagency agreements don't, on the bottom section where it says the services checked below indicate the services that the school will provide. Some of them aren't checked at all, so I'm sure it's a mutual.
Sometimes there's not a whole lot that we provide to them. It's more what they provide to us.
Okay, so they're meant to be in
Yes.
blank. And then some of them say that you're going to organize and coordinate appointments and accompany the child.
Sometimes we coordinate appointments, for example, like dental. Sometimes it might be lead screenings. Different things in the medical area that our students have to have their physicals. So sometimes we coordinate with our nurse and the medical. This is why it's very important that we have the ASAC interagency agreement meetings, because they're the ones that assist us with that. Now, we provide transportation for the families and the child if the parents cannot take them. We do have our Head Start vans, and we will pick up the parent, and we will transport the parent and the child to the appointment and back.
But you're not accompanying them, the child by themselves?
No.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
I will add that these interagencies that we have on the list have been serving Head Start since I started the program and beyond that. And one of the things that we do, there is a binder like this in the office called interagency, and every one of those agreements is in here. When the reviewers come in, this is one of the items that they do ask for, is they want to see the interagency agreements that we have for the different agencies. This is the first time, I believe, that it's presented to the board. Normally, it's just presented to the superintendent, and superintendent just signs on them.
Yes.
The reason I wanted her to bring this to the board is so that when you have the monitoring visits, that you will know and understand when it's not brought to you, and if you're asked during the monitoring visits, you might not know how to respond or might not know some of the questions. So I thought it was both a training and an approval.
That's a good point.
Thank you, Dr. Ackerman.
Me and Mr. Chavita remember from, there were some questions weren't clear. This makes things certainly more clear in terms of process and content.
It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the interagency agreements or memorandums of understanding as presented, and that Dr. Ackerman be authorized to sign.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Chavita has motioned. Is there a second? Mr. Overfelt has second. All in favor by a show of hands? It's unanimous. Motion carries. Thank you. On agenda item N, that's the one that we discussed. N and O, okay. On agenda items N and O, I'll go ahead and read them. Consideration to approve the second reading of Policy Update 95, affecting local policies AB, DF, BB, DFE, DGBA, EIE, FNG, and GF. And O, consideration to approve the first reading of Policy Update 96, affecting local policies DEC, EFAA, and FEB. We're pulling those for a later date. It's a lot of information, a lot of it's HR, personnel, that type of stuff. Cabinet needs more time. I would like more time. I'm sure others would. And it's going to bring it back probably.
Well, also on the item O, the DEC, we have to answer a lot of questions and send to S.F.D.R.C.I.S.D before they can make a recommendation.
Okay, so we're pulling that. Moving on to agenda item 8P, consideration to approve the administration to develop an interlocal agreement between the San Felipe Del Rio CISD and the Val Verde County to establish a community computer center at Old Cardwell Elementary site. Mr. Salinas presenting.
Well, good evening, Mr. Garabedian, members of the board, Dr. Ackerman. Dr. McNamara just passed out the actual written request from Commissioner Owens. He met with myself, Dr. Ackerman, and Mr. Casillas on April the 3rd to request interest on our part of setting up a community computer center at our Old Cardwell site as a joint venture with the county. On April the 8th, he did receive permission from the Commissioner's Court to move forward with negotiations if our board approves. Commissioner Owens indicated on April the 3rd to us that he could provide up to 10 computer workstations, appropriate software, a computer manager, internet connectivity, and custodial care for the site if the district could provide the facility space, the infrastructure for the technology, and utilities. Up here on the screen, this is the area that he's requesting, is A004, which used to be a computer lab at that site, along with these two restrooms. So this section here would be fenced off, and only access from this main entry would occur. And so that's what the request is for a computer lab at room A004 and the restrooms, along with entry to that site.
Ms. Lozano has a question.
That's not the area that would flood, right?
No.
No. That's a safe, higher
Yes.
crown level.
Yes.
And then on this memo from Commissioner Owens, the details on manpower for facility to be worked out?
Yes, at this time, they don't actually have the computer lab manager is what he's referring to.
Oh, okay, but it's not the expectation that the district
No.
will provide
No.
any resources other than the building?
The building and the infrastructure, the cabling that needs to be there for it to operate, and the utilities for those specific areas that he's requesting.
And when you bring it back to us, you would have the costs associated with that?
Yes.
Mr. Overfill.
Well, most of the cabling would still be in there. Did we get that when we shut the school down?
That is correct. What's not there is part of the infrastructure for the actual systems where all the cabling gets plugged into. Those have been removed from the rack, and Mr. Casillas will be looking to see what he can provide back.
Okay.
Ms. Lozano?
And the purpose for,
What he indicated, Ms. Lozano, was that in his precinct, that the residents in those areas do not have computer access nor internet access, and he'd like the ability to be able to provide that with our assistance as a joint venture.
are all of the libraries open for use of the internet, or is it just the high school?
No, all the libraries should be open.
So we don't have a school in his precinct that people could use? Or is this gonna be open like into the night and 24/7?
That's to be discussed in the negotiations in terms on weekends, during the day, et cetera. Dr. Ack?
When we had the partnership meeting, the first partnership meeting, there were parents, a couple of parents there, and one said that they were very concerned about the people coming on campus and using libraries. And another parent said that's exactly why I won't go there, because I do have to be screened. So I would rather go someplace where I don't have to be screened all the time. So, and these are reputable people on the partnership committee. And so what they were doing was kind of justifying some of the reasons why he wants to provide this for the community. And they are not always open at the libraries because they do have classes throughout the day. So there's not always a convenient time to go at the campus. So he was wanting, and he's not only wanting to do it in that area, but some other areas around town, and he just asked us to partner with him.
Dr. Keys.
And I take it the county will be supplying the manpower?
Yes, for the managing of the site and the custodial care.
So the equipment won't be left to the supervisor?
This is
Correct.
just the start of the process of the conversation. Talk. Comments?
So, who's gonna do all the wiring? Is it, how many computers are
The
there?
wiring is there, we just got to
It's
verify.
already there and everything
Yes, with
is-
Mr. Casillas on the fiber run, and then also if he's going to be able to provide any hardware for them. If not, Commissioner Owens indicated that he could get that from a local entity to actually do the connectivity.
Other questions?
Sounds great.
I think so. I think this sets a platform to discuss the possibilities. That's all it is at this point, is a discussion of what they could do, what we could do, and see if it goes forward. You know, some districts have a parental center, and, you know, parents throughout the district come in. We don't have anything like that. All we have are these sites of access, like what we're saying. The recommendation, please?
It's a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the administration to develop an interlocal agreement with the Val Verde County to establish a community computer center at the old Cardwell Elementary site, and then present the interlocal agreement at a future board meeting for final approval.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Chavita has motioned. I'll second. All in favor by a show of hands? It's unanimous. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Brings us to agenda item 8Q, consideration to approve to the new career and technical education dual credit course, Intro to Speech Communications, presenter Mr. Roger Gonzalez.
Good evening, Mr. McGarry-Beatty, Dr. Ackerman, members of the board. I'm here before you to expand our dual credit offerings at Del Rio High School. The required speech course is now part of CTE, Career and Technical Education, and we do have an instructor that actually qualifies to teach this class actually as a dual credit. So this is actually expanding our dual credit offerings at Del Rio High School.
Mr. Overflow, did you have a question?
On the, I don't have it in front of me, but I think you had it listed as 1311.
1311.
And I know there's two out there, 1311 and 1321.
Correct.
And 1321 tends to, and Mr. Garabine, you can correct me if I'm wrong, tends to be one that's most transferred to other universities there. So is there a reason we went with 1311?
1311 is actually the one that actually most students actually take, and in talking to the counselor department there at the high school, and in talking to the junior college dual credit person at the in Uvalde, Margaret Mata, they looked at the TEKS and they compared, and they felt that speech 1311 was very close. Now 1321, which is the one that you're referring to, is called Business and Professional Communications. This is more for business majors. This is actually, I'm looking at the description on it, it actually applies to business and professional situations, dealing more with managers and employees. What we are offering here is actually a general speech class that actually is just an introduction class.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're good when they transfer it out.
Yes, and I understand that speech 1311 is actually transferable in most colleges.
So we got all that discussed?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. And it's in-house, which is even
Absolutely,
better for us.
that's our goal. This is the 11th CT course that's offered as dual credit. We do have 5 through business management, 1 accounting, and 4 criminal justice. So this is just adding to the dual credit offerings through CTE.
Mr. Missa.
I just want to applaud you again, because I know in the past we've cut number of dual credit courses, and I personally hear it from parents that this is something that we don't want to do. We want to keep on adding every year, and I know that there's a self-assessment that the boards, different boards across the state do, and that shows up. whether we've added more dual credit courses, and it's to the benefit of everyone. So I applaud everybody's efforts in getting this additional course.
Thank you. This is actually a course that is going to be offered in the afternoon so as not to compete with other CT dual credit classes that are offered during the day. We do have a lot of classes that are offered, in management and accounting in the earlier hours. This class, our goal is to actually put it in the afternoon, so those seniors that are actually already in compliance by meeting all the requirements, they can take this class without actually having to go to the junior college, and the savings of money and the savings of time. And here we are with another dual credit offering.
Other questions? Very good. The recommendation, please.
This is the recommendation of the administration to approve the expand the dual credit courses offered to Del Rio High School students.
Further recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Mesa has motion, Mr. Chavita has second. All in favor by show of hands? It's unanimous, motion carries.
Thank you.
Brings us to agenda item 8R, consideration to approve the sponsorship of speech and language pathology graduate program with TWU in Region 15. Presenter, Dr. Deanna Aguirre, presenting.
Again, good evening, Mr. Garabedian. It's a late night. Dr. Ackerman and members of the board. I'd like to have our speech staff come in. I want you to meet them so that you can see the faces to the staff. I'm very pleased to be here to talk to you about the speech and language pathology program through Texas Women's University. This is the 7th cycle of this program, and the original intent was to home grow some of our staff, some of our own speech assistants to become speech and language pathologists, because we are in a remote area. It's very difficult to attract speech pathologists to Del Rio when the market is more competitive elsewhere. The goal is to have all of our bachelor level speech assistants become speech and language pathologists. The new cycle will begin May 26, 2013 and go through August 15, 2015. The cycles are 2 years. We have, we're very limited by what ASHA allows us to do with our speech assistants. Our speech assistants provide therapy only and must have supervision. They are not allowed to handle their own ARD meetings, not allowed to do any assessment, write IEPs. So really what we want are more and more of our staff members to become master's level speech language pathologists. We have the San Felipe Del Rio School District, CISD, has previously sponsored this graduate program. It's a very competitive program, and for some of the students, it requires that they take some prerequisite leveling courses before they're even allowed to apply for this program. This cycle had 400 applicants, and only 115 were accepted. And I'm very pleased to report that 3 of the employees from San Felipe Del Rio CISD were accepted. They are Marisa Caban, Cynthia Lozoya, and Veronica Arredondo. So it was very tough. These are very bright people and will do well. We currently, in this school district, have 2 speech and language pathologists on staff, and both of them earn their graduate degrees from Texas Women's University in this program. Monica Fernandez, who's our speech and language coordinator, and Debbie Cantu, who is one of our speech and language pathologists. So these 2 ladies spend most of their time providing supervision. Okay, so their time is, as far as providing actual therapy, it's limited because they have to do so much supervision, assessments, attend the meetings that the bachelor's level can't. We have 2 students who will be, who are currently in cycle 6 and who are on schedule to graduate in May. They will receive their master's degree, and this is going to increase our numbers of SLPs in this district to 4. And these 2 students are, let's see, Georgina Mendoza and Marissa Baldwin. So we're real excited for them. They're real excited too. They can't wait to finish. They are, speech and language pathologists are licensed through the Texas Department of Health, and they're governed by the Texas Board of Examiners for Speech and Language Pathology and Audiology. They also have to pass a national examination in speech pathology and audiology. And Marissa and Georgina will be preparing for that this summer. They'll graduate in May, but courses will continue so that they can pass their nationals. Sponsorship consists of providing supervision for the students in diagnosing and treating of speech disorders. There's different types, so they have to gain experience in working with all different types. We must also provide supervision of 6 practicum hours per week for each student by an SLP. An SLP must also serve as a facilitator 1 evening per week while they attend their distance learning classes through TWU, and those are provided at Annex 1. TWU also requires that the incoming students attend what they call the kickoff week in Denton. This would require that the San Felipe Del Rio CISD allow for the release time of each employee during the week of May 27th through May 31st. Each student would use their own days, but it's just asking that the district allow them to be released. During this week, it would only be 4 days. Monday is a holiday, so Monday wouldn't count. There's distance learning fees that are paid by the student, and Region 15 works with the district to set up payroll deduction so that the employees' distance learning fees are deducted from their salaries. We have found this to be an effective means of getting more highly trained therapists with a minimum cost to the district. And I thought there was a copy of the sponsorship in your packet, but I didn't see it. But those are the basic provisions of the sponsorship, and it's really, they're asking the district to sponsor them and asking that they help the students prepare by doing those things. Now, they attend classes during the summer as well, and during the week, once the fall starts, they attend on Tuesdays and I think it's Thursdays? Tuesdays is distance learning, and they require a facilitator, and on Thursdays they do it at home. On the web. Was it in the packet?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I just didn't see it. I'm sorry, I'm glad you have it. Are there any questions?
Questions or discussion? Mr. Mesa?
I know for years, Dr. Aguirre, we've struggled to find speech pathologists, and I mean, we've been very resourceful. At times, we had to, provide, incentives and bonuses and so forth. But I think this is, a very great way of getting our staff that we need, and I applaud the teachers for. I know some of you have been teaching, and so you're going into a different area now, but it's excellent. I think, you're to be, applauded for your efforts. I know it's a lot of work.
It's a very difficult program to get through, but they're tough. It's always better to go into a group when you have a cohort, because at least you have people that you can work with and help you along as well, where you can partner.
Right. And I've seen the work because I've worked with the pre-K preschool program. The advantages of having, the services provided to the students that need it, because it makes a tremendous difference. And again, I want to thank you for making that extra effort, again, to further your education and help the district in so many different ways.
Well, and what we do is also, we ask that the employees commit 3 years postgraduate so that they can help offset some of the costs that the district has incurred in providing this sponsorship.
Right.
And we've done that. I also want to introduce, we have a couple of bachelor level assistants. We do have bachelor level assistants, but 2 of them will have their masters. 3 of them will be working on their masters. And we have Cody Grenwald, who is one of our speech assistants. And we also have Ann Darley, who is an the back, she works with our babies at Cardwell. She has speech and language labs going on, and we find that this is an excellent way to start working with our students so that we can help build them up so that when they go into pre-K or kinder, we've already been working on their language for a while. This district has about 325 to 350 students that are speech impaired and must receive therapy in one way or another. We have about 101 who are identified as having a speech impairment alone, and the others have a disability in addition to the speech and language impairment. So for some students, it requires that they have speech on a one-to-one basis or, in small groups, but it's difficult for them, and depending on the disorder, also determines how they're going to work with a student. Are there any questions that I can answer or that one of the ladies can answer? I will say one thing, that when Monica started, Monica had to commute. You had to travel to Midland?
I actually had to go, and they would fly in the professors to a central location, and we had class for 4 days. 2 days with one professor, 2 days with another professor, and one semester was in San Angelo, and then the other one was in Midland, so they have it good compared to
So they don't have to leave Del Rio, they'll have to leave for that week to go to Denton. And they call it kickoff, which is a nice way of saying, we're gonna work you like crazy for this week. Are there any questions?
Questions or discussion? No? Mr. Chavita?
Well, I'm glad that we're doing all this. I remember 3 years ago, we had some issues,
Shortage.
and I was very much for doing what needed to be done, and I'm still with it, and I'm glad that we're continuing to doing something to keep our newly to-be graduated people here, because it's important.
Well,
We have a lot of students that are in need, and we need to provide all
Oh, no,
the needs.
you're correct, and I had a conversation with the people from Texas Women's University, the speech doctors who provide their classes, and I said, look at your map, because, you always want to have more students into the program. I said, you need to see where we're located. They didn't have a clue. So when we explained it to them, it opened it up, so we were very, very fortunate to have 3 of our students accepted into the program.
Thank you for all your efforts in coordinating that.
Anything else? Okay.
It is the recommendation of the administration that this agreement between TWU, San Felipe Del Rio CISD, and Region 15 remain in effect regardless of staff changes, and that our current interim superintendent approve and sign the sponsorship agreement for Cycle 7 students from San Felipe Del Rio CISD admitted into the Texas Women's University Speech and Language Pathology Graduate Program.
Heard the recommendation, and I so move. Is there a
I second
second?
that motion.
Mr. Chavita has seconded. All in favor by a show of hands? It's unanimous. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Miss Lana, yeah, the time limit on that thing. God, she was,
Okay, that brings us to agenda item 9, closed session. It's now 8:14
I was looking across.
It's now 8:14 PM, April the 15th, 2013. The board will now recess this open session and convene the closed meeting according with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, Subchapter D and E. The board is able to do that under 551.0.071, 551.072, 551.073. Specifically tonight, we do that under 551.074, discussion of personnel or hear complaints against personnel. 1 being discussion of new hires, new assignments, district vacancies, and reassignments. 2, discussion of teacher contracts. 3, discussion of administrator and professional contracts. Other sections that apply are 551.076, 551.082, 551.084. All final votes, actions, or decisions will be taken in an open meeting. Now in closed session. 15th, 2013. The board will now reconvene in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, Subchapter D and E. No action was taken in closed session. So now that we're reconvened into open session, we're on agenda item 11, discussion action items. A, consideration to approve new hires, new assignments, district vacancies, and reassignments. Dr. Patty McNamara presenting.
Good evening again, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Ackerman, members of the board. At this time, the administration recommends the following new applicants for hire. Miss Melanie Elliott for English teacher at Del Rio High School, SGLC, and Mrs. Joelda Espinosa, counselor at Del Rio High School.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Mesa has motioned. Mr. Overfelt has second. All in favor by show of hands? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, unanimous. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item B, consideration to approve the teacher contracts as presented in closed session. Dr. McNamara presenting.
Okay, Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Ackerman, members of the board. It is the recommendation of the administration that the School Board of Trustees approve the teacher contracts as presented in closed executive session this evening.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Mesa has motion, Dr. Keys is second. All in favor by a show of hands? It's unanimous, motion carries. Brings us to 11C, consideration to approve administrator and professional contracts as presented in closed session. Dr. McNamara presenting.
Mr. Garabedian, Dr. Ackerman, members of the board, once again, it is a recommendation of the administration that the administrator and professional contracts be approved as presented in closed executive session this evening.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Chavita has motion, Dr. Keys is second. All in favor by a show of hands? It's unanimous, motion carried.
Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you. It brings us to agenda item 12, adjourn meeting with no further business before this board. I so motion that we adjourn. Is there a second? Mr. Overfelt is second. All in favor by a show of hands? It's unanimous, motion carries, meeting adjourned. Thank you.